this lecture we study inventory models. Inventory essentially deals with materials, the procurement of materials and materials management as to how we store the material for subsequent use. In every manufacturing organization or manufacturing situation, we buy material, and these material are usually bought as raw material. Sometimes these raw material undergo manufacturing and become semi-finished or finished products. Some of the bought out items go directly into the assembly of the product. Earlier we have seen aggregate production planning, where the output of the aggregate planning is telling us how much of production capacity is available for every period. Later we would also be studying disaggregation models, where the production capacity that is available in each period is now allocated to the various products that are made. So at the end of disaggregation we would know what are the products that are going to be made. In order to make these products we need to buy material. So we are now going to look at how we buy material. So inventory essentially answers two very important questions. If there is an item or material that we are going to buy, there are two important decisions that are associated with the purchase of the material, and these two questions are how much to order and when to order. So obviously when the production planning is complete and the allocation of time to the various products are made, one has an idea of how much or how many products of a certain type we are going to produce. So the final product, the whatever we are going to produce of the final product of each of the products now requires certain raw materials or bought out items in a certain number. So if the demand of the various products are known, these demand can be suitably multiplied to find out the requirement of each of these items or material that goes into the final product. Once we know the annual demand of each of the item that goes into the final product, we need to make decisions on what quantity we are going to order every time we place an order and when exactly we are going to order. So inventory control or inventory management essentially deals with these two aspects. Let us also spend some time on the classification of inventory models. Broadly two types of classification. One is called single period inventory models and multiple period inventory models, called as multi-period inventory models. Single period inventory models assume that the planning horizon is a single period and the decision is made only once. Multi-period models assume that there are several planning periods or multiple periods and decisions are made more than once. Sometimes these are also called static and dynamic inventory problems. Now the important thing that drives the inventory management is the actual demand for the item. The moment we know the demand, then only we can answer these two questions: how much to order every time we order and when to order. So now depending on the nature of the demand, we can have broadly three classifications. One is called deterministic demand, the other is probabilistic demand, and within the probabilistic demand we have two classifications. One is called inventory under risk, the other is called inventory under uncertainty. Deterministic means the annual demand is known and known with certainty. Risk would mean that the demand is known, but the demand is not deterministic, it follows a certain distribution and the entire distribution is known, the distribution of demand is known, then it is called problems under risk. Uncertainty, it is assumed that the demand is not deterministic, the distribution of demand is not known, but certain important parameters such as mean and variance of the demand are known, then it is said to be inventory models under uncertainty. Now, in this lecture series on operations and supply chain management, we will be looking at multiple period deterministic models and multiple period with risk. We would also try and look at some one or two single period models with non-deterministic demand. So, we will first take the case of the deterministic demand and then look at some models where the demand is known and deterministic. Then we will move into probabilistic inventory models, particularly covering situations of inventory under risk. Then, as mentioned, in inventory problems we basically answer these two questions, which are how much to order and when to order. One of the reasons we have to answer these two questions is the material that we buy or the items that we buy for manufacturing are special items which somebody else is producing and selling to the organization that is manufacturing this product. So, the vendor or the person or the supplier who actually provides this material also requires some time to make this and then sell it. Therefore, it is necessary to fix on a certain order quantity which is optimal, such that the person who makes it and sells it has the time to do so. So, organizations do not, for example, buy items, the same item every day. Traditionally, they would buy a slightly larger quantity than what was required every day. So, the question of how much to buy or how much to order came about. More recently, organizations have moved towards just in time manufacturing and just in time purchasing, where organizations tend to buy exactly what is demanded, or they buy for the demand of a very short period of time, unlike in the older models where you actually end up fixing an order quantity which is optimized, which may result in the quantity being the demand of a larger time period. We will first look at some traditional models where we actually try and optimize and try and find out what is the quantity that we have to buy. Usually this thing how much to order is called the order quantity, and is denoted by the letter Q, and when to order is called reorder level, and is denoted by R. Now, the second question is also important, because when we place an order to the supplier has to make that item and then give it. So, there is a time that the supplier needs to make it, and the variable called when to order is chosen such that when we place the order and by the time the order arrives, we should have enough material with us to meet the demand during the period between placing an order and arrival of the order. Now, this period between placing an order and arrival of the order is called the lead time. Very broadly defined, lead time is the time between placing an order and receiving it. Lead time also actually has several components. Sometimes we look at identifying that an order has to be placed and placing an order. Between these two, certain time elapses, and then the order is placed and the order is met are supplied, and then by the time the item is supplied and the time the item is put to use, certain amount of time elapses. So, sometimes we consider all of them as the lead time, but for the purpose of our discussion we would assume that the lead time is the time between placing an order and receiving it. So, the when to order question becomes important, because we need to place an order such that by the time the material arrives, or for the period taken between placing the order and the arrival of the material, which is the lead time, we should have sufficient stock to meet the demand for the item during the lead time. So, generally reorder level, or the point at which we place the order, is equal to the demand during lead time. So, that with that quantity, which is called the reorder level, we should be able to meet the demand during lead time, which is called lead time demand. When the demand is deterministic and the lead time is also deterministic and known with certainty, then the lead time demand can be computed as the product of lead time and daily demand. But if one of them is non-deterministic, then we have to look at expected value of the lead time demand and then try and see whether the reorder level is about the expected value of the lead time demand or sometimes more than that. We will see those aspects as we move along, as we move towards probabilistic inventory models later. Right now we will restrict ourselves to deterministic inventory models, where the demand is known with certainty. We go back to the other question, how much to order quantity. There one other reason that we do not order the same item every day for consumption is that there are other costs associated with inventory. So, obviously when items are bought, there is a price, or which is called the cost of the item. So, when we buy a single item, there is a unit cost associated with that item. So, if we order a quantity Q and if the unit cost is C, then Q into C is the actual worth or cost of the item that we have to incur when we buy that item. If we assume that the annual demand is known and is capital D, then D into C is the worth of the item or the money spent on buying the item per year, under the assumption of course that the cost of the item does not change during the planning period. We normally assume that C remains as C and it does not increase, or there is no effect of inflation on the cost of the item and so on. But in addition to the cost of the item, there are few other costs that we incur. Now, those are three other types of costs that we incur. One is called order cost or ordering cost, which is denoted by the notation C naught or C0 or CO, order cost, which is incurred every time an order is placed for an item. Now, this cost is different from the actual cost of the item. This does not depend or is independent of the quantity that is being ordered, but every time there is a decision to place an order or make an order, a certain order cost is incurred. Order cost has several components, some of which I will list here. Now, first one is the cost of people or payroll, money given to the people who work in the purchasing areas. Their salaries have to be factored in and they become part of the ordering cost, because they order several items day by day. So, there is a part of the order cost that goes into meeting the salaries of the people who are involved. Second is there is a transportation cost for the items to come from the supplier to the organization which has ordered, which is included in the cost of ordering. We can assume that there is a one time transportation cost for bringing the items from the supplier point to the organization. Third is there could be inspection costs because these items that come in have to be inspected. Sometimes we could have 100% inspection, sometimes there could be random sampling, but in some form these incoming goods are inspected and there is a cost associated with the inspection. Next is, however undesirable, we could have a situation where at the end of the inspection there is a reject. So, the rejected items have to go back and then have to be replaced. So, there is a delay, there is a time element as well as there is a cost element. So, there could be cost of reject and rework with respect to the supplier side. Fifth one, and perhaps another important one, is called the cost of follow up. For example, an order is placed and sometimes there could be delays, and then the lead time is estimated and known, and just about the time we are going to reach the lead time, which means the item has to come, then there is a lot of follow up activity going on, and some of these follow up activities could even be senior people from this organization visiting the supplier and making sure that the critical items that are required come in time. So, there is a cost associated with follow up. Follow up could be over the phone, it could be over other forms which are expensive, it would also mean a visit of a person going to this place and then maybe inspecting it then and there and bringing it here. So, there are these costs that are associated with the cost of ordering. Of course, if there is any delay, then each of these delays is going to result in a higher cost. So, all these are the components of what is called order cost or ordering cost, and this cost does not depend on, it is assumed that it does not depend on the quantity that is ordered. For example, if you look at these components, one could say that at least this component could depend on the quantity that is ordered, but then right now we assume that the order cost is not dependent on the quantity that is ordered and is fixed for every order. Now, the other important cost that comes that the organization has to incur after the item arrives is called inventory holding cost or carrying cost. Holding or carrying cost. Now, this is denoted by CC, inventory carrying cost of carrying inventory, which is CC. This also has many components. Now, the material arrives and it arrives in a certain quantity which is Q, which we have to find out. And then, as I mentioned, when we do the optimization, the Q, let us say, is a little more than the daily demand, which means that the material that comes is going to be used for a certain number of days, and then an order is going to be placed, the next order is going to arrive and it is going to be used. So, when this quantity Q comes, it has to be saved, it has to be stored, it has to be held in control, and there is a cost associated with that. Now, that cost is our inventory holding cost or inventory carrying cost. So, the first cost that we can think of is the cost of space to keep these items. So, they have to be kept in some warehouse or some storage area and stored and kept safe and secure. And the moment we want safety and security, we need people who will guard these items from theft and keep it safe and secure. So, the salary associated with salary of the people who are associated with storing the inventory is another component. Sometimes along with space you could also have power and other accessories which are required. So, there will be cost of power that is there in the storage area and other accessories. Sometimes some of these items may require very specific environment, such as a dust proof environment, or sometimes a certain temperature which has to be maintained for some of these items. These are not very common, but not uncommon either, that there could be some items which require a certain temperature conditions, dust proof conditions and so on. So, we need cost to do certain other things such as other special requirements. Now, the next thing that can happen is, suppose we order a very large quantity Q, and before we consume this entire quantity, which would say run into several days of consumption, for some reason either the technology changes or there is a better product that comes in and so on, and this item that we have bought can become obsolete and unusable. So, if such a situation occurs, there could be cost of obsolescence. So, I write this as cost of obsolete items. Again, however undesirable it is, there are times when the items get stolen and there is a certain pilferage cost that the organization has to occur, particularly when they are metals. Metals tend to be easily stolen if they are not properly watched. So, however small and undesirable it is, there could be a cost of pilferage. Now, over and above all these is an extremely important cost, which is a very integral and a large component of the cost of carrying. Now, when we buy this item, say Q, quantity of Q of a particular item which costs C, then Q into C is the cost of the item, and the organization has to spend this money in buying it. Now, the organization is going to recover the money much later, after all these items are put to use, the product is manufactured, the product is sold, and then the money is recovered. So, when the organization spends this Q into C to buy this item, the organization actually borrows this money Q into C from some source. So, for the borrowed money, the organization has to pay interest, which is called the cost of capital. So, the most dominant cost of holding the inventory is the cost of capital, though I have written it as the sixth item or the last item. This is indeed the most important of the costs. So, this is also defined as some kind of interest rate that the organization spends, which is given by small I, and therefore, the CC, if we consider all these costs, then the CC is the cost of holding the item. It comes as so many rupees per unit per year or per period. Many times it is customary, and if we actually work out the calculations for the various components, one would see that this takes a very large proportion of the CC, and the rest of them are actually very small compared to the contribution of this. So, in a situation where this dominates the rest of them, it is also customary to write CC as I into C, where I is the interest percent per year and C is the unit cost of the item. So, carrying cost can be written in two ways. One is it is called CC, cost of carrying, where all these costs are included, and there are situations where cost CC is written as I into C, where the interest on the borrowed capital dominates and is taken, and the rest of them are assumed to be negligible compared to the interest rate. Now, there is a fourth cost, which let me write here. Maybe let me write the fourth cost here, and the fourth cost is called cost of back order or cost of shortage. Now, let us assume that we are buying a certain item, and based on the availability of this item, let us say that we have scheduled the production of a certain product or a component, let us say on a Friday, and let us assume that this item is expected to come on Thursday, so that on Friday morning when the production happens, the material is available for production. And let us assume for some reason we are not getting it on Thursday or Friday, and when the Friday morning when the production is about to begin, the item has not come, it is not available. Now, therefore, we will not be able to produce it on Friday, say. Now, if the due date for the item or for the product that is to be made on Friday is Friday, which means we will not be able to deliver it to the customer on Friday. So, there will be a delay. Now, that delay is ordinarily called as shortage. We have not been able to meet the due date or not able to meet the customer requirement for want of material. Now, this can be handled in two ways. One is to say that, well, I am not able to deliver it to the customer on Friday. At the same time, I will carry the unmet demand to the next day, which is say Saturday, produce it and give it. Now, such a situation is called back order, where the unmet demand is carried to the next period, produced, and then the demand is met. The other is called shortage, or also called lost sale, which means if I am not able to meet a certain demand on Friday, I have lost it and I will not try to recover it by back ordering it. Very loosely, both of them are called shortage. Shortage has to be specified whether we are looking at a back ordering situation or on a lost sale situation. Usually, when it is not specified, it is assumed that it is back ordering situation. So, there is a cost associated with this if the material does not come in time. Now, such a cost is given by the notation CS, cost of shortage. Now, this also has several components. The first component, particularly if it is a lost sale, is the loss of profit associated with the sale, because the sale is not complete because for want of material. So, there is a loss of profit associated with that. One could even go to the extent of adding something like loss of opportunity. For example, through this sale I might get further business which is lost because I have not met that deadline or due date. If it is a back ordering, which means I carry the demand to the next period, I need some more capacity in the next period to meet the additional demand. So, cost of that capacity. So, cost of additional capacity to make this item. In either case, whether it is a back order or a shortage, I do not have the material, so I will not be able to produce. So, either I have to do some rescheduling and produce some other thing for which material is available. So, if we do that, then there is a cost of rescheduling. If we are unable to produce some other item during the time that we have specified for this item, then the resource is not utilized for this period, is idle for this period. So, cost of idleness of resource or underutilization of resource. Now, let us go back to the situation where we have not been able to produce it on Friday, but we try and give it on the next day, we produce it on the next day. Now, let us assume for a moment that we had actually decided scheduled it for Friday. Now, let us assume that if we were able to make it on Friday, then let us say we would have used a truck to take the finished goods to the customer. Now, there is a back order, we are not able to produce and meet it on Friday. Let us say we are able to do it only on Saturday. but then we do not want that delay to be carried to the customer, we do not want it to go much later. So, one of the ways we can actually speed it up is by, instead of sending it by road or by truck, one could airlift the item and send it to the customer. So, that would result in increased freight. If we choose to take faster modes of transport which are expensive, so there could be an increased freight if, in order to meet the due date, we try and speed it up by sending it by air instead of sending it by road. Now, we have seen 6 different aspects of CS, but there is one most important one. Just as cost of capital is the most important one in CC, there is a very important component of this which is called loss of customer goodwill. Now, if there is a delay, then the customer is not going to be happy with the performance of the manufacturing organization. And if this delay continues, then definitely there is a point at which the organization would lose the customer, or the organization starts getting worried that they are going to lose the customer. And there is a goodwill which is extremely important for the survival of any organization. Now, that gets hurt and there is a loss of goodwill. So, organizations are very concerned about the loss of goodwill that could happen because of delays and because of material not being available. So, the cost associated with losing customer goodwill is an integral part of CS. The only difficulty there is, it is extremely hard to give a numerical value to this. One cannot say that my cost of goodwill is so many rupees per day delayed. Every organization knows that this cost is high, and every organization wishes to treat this cost as high, so that we do not compromise on that or we do not take that for granted. At the same time, almost no organization can accurately estimate what is the cost of loss of customer goodwill. So, these are all the components that go into the inventory. Now, 4 important costs: the unit cost of the item that is bought, the ordering cost, the carrying cost, and the back order or shortage cost, which are described using notation C for the cost of the item, C naught or CO which is the ordering cost, CC or I into C which is the carrying cost, and CS which is the shortage cost. Now, the other 3 costs are different and they are additional costs, they are over and above the actual cost of the item. So, when an organization buys, maintains inventory, the organization actually incurs all these 4 costs depending on certain situations. So, the inventory management, which talks about how much to order, which is Q, which is the first question that we will look at, will now have to try and optimize and keep all the 4 costs to the minimum. So, the objective will be to try and minimize the sum of all the associated costs, all the 4 costs which are there, depending on the setting or depending on the assumptions. The decision variable is how much to order, which is Q. So, with this we will try and look at some very basic inventory models and then extend these inventory models to slightly more advanced situations. So, the first inventory model that we will look at, which we call as model 1, is called single item continuous demand and instantaneous replenishment. Now, let us assume that the annual demand for this item is D per year and is known. Now, let Q be the ordering quantity that we decide to order every time we place an order. So, let us look at how the inventory for this item behaves with respect to time. So, let us draw a simple graph which is like this. This is time, and let us assume that we have just placed an order for Q and we have just instantly received it. Instantaneous replenishment would mean that as soon as you place the order, the item arrives, which also means that lead time is 0. So, the moment the order is placed, the items are received. So, let us assume that we have received a Q and we are consuming or using this Q. Now, when we say continuous demand, we assume that the demand is there, the same amount of demand is there at every instance of time. Therefore, as time goes on, the demand D is met, is there for every instance of time, it is met, and the stock of the item comes from Q, it is consumed and comes till it reaches 0. Now, this slope is D, which is actually the demand for the item. To put it in simple terms, more understandable terms, it will be like saying if the annual demand is 10,000 and let us say if the company works for 250 days, then the daily demand is 40. If the company works for 8 hours a day, then the hourly demand is 5. If the hourly demand is 5, the demand per minute is 5 by 60 and the demand per second is that divided by 60 and so on, and the demand is the same. That is how we should look at this continuous demand, which means at every instance of time there is a demand, and since that demand is same, which is D per year, now this will come as a straight line from Q to 0. Now, the moment the stock position reaches 0, because we have instantaneous replenishment and we also assume no shortage, we do not want to model shortage situations, no shortage. Since we do not want to model shortage, as soon as the demand reaches as soon as the inventory position reaches 0, I will call this as stock or inventory position on the y axis, time on the x axis. So, as soon as the inventory position reaches 0, I place an order, for another Q and there is an instantaneous replenishment of that. So, as soon as I place an order here, my stock position goes up to this Q. Now, once again the cycle continues and then I start consuming this till I reach this, then again I place an order and then I start consuming. So, this is how the inventory position will behave. Please note that it is the same Q which is here as well as here and so on. Now, let us call this time period as capital T. Now, let us derive a very simple formula to find out Q. Now, every time we place an order, we order a quantity Q. So, number of orders per year will be D by Q, because every time we place an order, we order for Q. Number of orders per year is D by Q. Total order cost is equal to D by Q into C naught. Now C naught is this order cost. So every time we place an order, we incur a C naught, and this C naught has a unit of rupees per order. So D by Q is the number of orders per year, C naught is rupees per order. So D by Q into C naught will have a unit of rupees per year spent in order cost. So this cost we have considered. Now we have to consider this cost, holding cost or inventory cost. Now holding cost or inventory cost is defined as CC, and this has a unit called rupees per unit per year. So either year or the same time period that we are talking about. Since we are looking at year here, we would also define this as year. Rupees per unit per year. So this is the cost of holding one unit, rupees per unit per year. So what is the average inventory that we have at any point in time multiplied by CC will give us the holding cost per year, and the average inventory should be in terms of number of units that we have. Now there are two ways of calculating the average inventory. So average inventory is like saying, if I start this cycle, I start with Q, then it comes down, it comes down, it comes down, it comes down to 0 at time t. So in a particular cycle, the beginning inventory is Q, the ending inventory is 0, the average inventory is Q by 2, because you actually have a line here. That is one way of saying that the average inventory is Q by 2. Other way is to say that you take any period of time, find out the total inventory that you have, divide it by time to get the average inventory. So if you take one particular cycle, the total inventory that we have held during this cycle is the area of this triangle, which is half into base into height. So half into Q into T. Now that much inventory is held for a period T. So half into Q into T divided by T, which gives us half into Q. So average inventory either way is Q by 2 units. Average inventory is the kind of inventory that we have at any point in time, averaged over a reasonable value. Now the cost of holding this inventory is called total holding cost. Is equal to Q by 2 into CC, cost of holding. This also has rupees per year, because this is rupees per unit per year, this is units. So it becomes rupees per year, the units get cancelled and you get rupees per year. Now we look at this cost, which is back order or shortage cost. One of the assumptions is that there is no shortage. So we do not incur shortage in this particular model, which means the inventory position does not become negative. So there is no shortage assumption in this model. Therefore we will not consider back order or shortage cost in our total cost. Now there is this cost of the item. So cost of the item is equal to D into C. D is the annual demand, C is the unit cost of the item. So D into C, rupees per year. So total cost, total annual cost TC, which is the sum of the order cost, the holding cost as well as the cost of the item, is given by D by Q C naught plus Q by 2 CC plus D into C. Now in this total cost expression, as I said, there are three costs: cost of the item, cost of ordering, cost of holding the inventory. there is no shortage or back order cost. Now we want to find the variable is q, rest of the things are known, they are known parameters. So only thing that we need to do is to find out q. Now this total cost is a nonlinear function of q, because you find q in the denominator here, you find q in the numerator here. It is a single variable nonlinear function. So differentiating with respect to q and setting it to 0 will give the first derivative equal to 0 will give the optimum value of q. Whether it is maximized or minimized will depend on the second derivative. Now our objective is to minimize this Tc. So setting it first derivative to 0 would give us dTc by dq equal to 0 will give us minus d by q square C naught plus Cc by 2 equal to 0. The third term is d into c, which is a constant. It does not contain q, therefore its derivative will be 0. So first derivative equal to 0 would give us minus d by q square C naught plus Cc by 2 equal to 0, which on simplification would give us q equal to root of 2 d C naught by Cc. Now actually speaking, q is a square root of something, so q should be plus value or minus value mathematically, but since q is a quantity that is ordered, it cannot take a negative value, therefore it is customary to write q equal to root of 2 d C naught by Cc and write only the positive value. We do not write plus minus root of 2 d C naught by Cc, only the positive value is taken. Now we have to find out whether at this value of q the original function is a maximum or a minimum. Now we are interested in minimizing the total cost. So a second derivative will be, this is minus d by q square C naught, this will become a constant. Now there is a negative term and a q square here. So on further differentiation we will get a positive term here and q cubed will come in the denominator. So for a positive value of root over 2 d C naught by Cc, the second derivative will be positive, indicating that this quantity is actually the minimum quantity. Now this quantity q is called the economic order quantity. It is called the economic order quantity. It is also called EOQ for short. Now the formula that we have derived is called the EOQ formula for a single item, and this formula is also called the Wilson's EOQ formula, attributed to Wilson, who derived it somewhere I think in the early 40s or 30s, so on. Sometimes this formula is also credited, the credit goes to Harris. It is also called Harris's inventory formula, and the literature talks about the contributions of both Wilson and Harris, who supposedly have independently derived or thought about the use of such a formula to find out the economic order quantity, or the order quantity that minimizes the sum of the ordering cost as well as in the carrying cost. So out of the 4 costs, as I said, we did not consider the back order or shortage cost. We also observe that the 3 remaining costs that we have got, this is the order cost component, this is the inventory holding cost component, this is the item cost component. We now realize that the item cost actually does not play a part in the economic order quantity. So it is also customary to leave out the item cost and derive q simply by considering the order cost as well as the carrying cost alone and not including the item cost, because item cost being a constant is not going to contribute to the derivation of the economic order quantity. So there are only 2 costs which are optimized, which are the order cost as well as the carrying cost. So in this formula of q equal to plus root of 2 D C naught by C C. D is known, which is the annual demand, C naught is known, which is rupees per order, C C is rupees per unit per year. What is very important is that if D is annual demand, which is demand per year, then C C should be defined as rupees per unit per year. If D is defined as month, then C C should also be defined as so many rupees per unit per month. So, D and C C should have the same time period in their unit of measurement. So, if D, C naught and C C are known, then the economic order quantity can be calculated, and then we can substitute this Q into the total cost function to find out the minimum total cost that the organization would incur. In the next lecture, we will consider numerical examples and we explore a little further on inventory models.